It was my son's wedding day, the day I'd been waiting for forever. After years of dedicating myself to him, taking care of him, always being there whenever he needed me, I was thrilled at the idea of finally seeing him walk down the aisle and being right there by his side for such a special moment. I was all ready to go, makeup done, my favorite party dress on door, the one I'd picked out with so much love, brand new shoes on my feet. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my son. "Mom, we've decided you're not coming to the wedding. We want it to be intimate, just the people closest to us." Right then and there, I felt like the ground had vanished right out from under me. My heart sank. My hands started shaking. I read that message over and over again, trying to wrap my head around it. Just the people closest to us. Those words kept echoing in my head. I wasn't close enough. After everything I'd done for him, all those times I dropped my own plans to be there for him, all those sleepless nights when he was little, all the sacrifices a black mother makes to make sure her kids get better opportunities. And now I wasn't considered close enough. The loneliness I'd been feeling for years, that awful feeling of being needed but never enough, of being useful but never appreciated, came crashing down on me like a wave that was drowning me. There I was, all dressed up and ready to celebrate my son's love, but completely invisible to the person I loved most in this world. Before I keep going with my story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Drop a like if you're enjoying this and comment down below where you're watching from. Let's go. My name's Regina. I'm 62 years old, and this happened 6 months ago. Back then, I'd been married to Paulo for 35 years, had just retired after 30 years working as a nursing assistant, and I was at that stage in life where you think you're finally going to be able to rest a little. You know, enjoy the grandkids, travel, do all those things we've always put off. My only son, Andre, was 32 and had been engaged to Camila for 2 years. I'm not gonna lie. I never had a super close relationship with Camila, but I tried. I always tried. She was polite, but in that cold, distant kind of way. But I swallowed any discomfort because I wanted my son to be happy. The wedding prep had been intense. They'd set it for a Saturday in May at this beautiful ranch on the outskirts of town. I'd helped out however I could, not that they really needed my help financially. Camila's parents were better off and footed the bill for just about everything, but I made a point of contributing with some things. I helped pick out the flowers, suggested a caterer I knew who did gorgeous work, spent entire afternoons helping Camila put together the wedding favors. I wanted to be part of it all, you know? Wanted my son to know I was there, present, happy for him. I even paid for the flower girls' dresses, 2 of Camila's nieces, because I wanted to give them that gift. Did it from the heart. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, I'd noticed Andre was acting kinda weird with me. He'd answer my texts with short replies, almost cold. When I'd call to ask something about the ceremony, he'd brush me off real quick and hang up. I mentioned it to Paulo, who just shrugged and said it was normal. That grooms get stressed out before the wedding. I tried to believe that. But deep down, I felt this pang. You know, that feeling that something's off, but you don't want to face it, 'cause it hurts too much to admit. There was this one day I stopped by their place to drop off some sweets I'd made, and Camila barely opened the door, just stood there in the doorway, holding the door like I was some kind of intruder, didn't even invite me in, thanked me for the sweets and closed the door. I just stood there in the hallway of the building, clutching my purse, feeling so small. It was my son's wedding day, the day I'd been waiting for forever. After years of dedicating myself to him, taking care of him, always being there whenever he needed me, I was thrilled at the idea of finally seeing him walk down the aisle and being right there by his side for such a special moment. I was all ready to go, makeup done, my favorite party dress on. That navy blue one I'd picked out with so much love after hitting up 3 different malls. Brand new shoes on my feet that were already pinching a little, but I didn't even care. I'd even bought a gold clutch to match. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my son. "Mom, we've decided you're not coming to the wedding. We want it to be intimate, just the people closest to us." Right then and there, I felt like the ground had vanished right out from under me. My heart sank. My hands started shaking. I read that message over and over again, trying to wrap my head around it. Just the people closest to us. Those words kept echoing in my head. I wasn't close enough, after everything I'd done for him. All those times I dropped my own plans to be there for him. All those sleepless nights when he was little. All the sacrifices a black mother makes to make sure her kids get better opportunities. And now I wasn't considered close enough. The loneliness I'd been feeling for years, that awful feeling of being needed but never enough, of being useful but never appreciated, came crashing down on me like a wave that was drowning me. There I was, all dressed up and ready to celebrate my son's love, but completely invisible to the person I loved most in this world. I tried calling Andre right away. It rang and rang and rang. Nothing. I texted him, "Son, for the love of God, explain this to me. What's going on?" Nothing. I called again and again. Paolo came into the room and saw me sitting there on the edge of the bed, still in my dress, phone shaking in my hand. "What's wrong?" he asked. And when I showed him the message, he went white, pale as a ghost. He grabbed his phone and tried calling Andre too. Nothing. The two of us just sat there in that living room, not knowing what to do, not understanding what was happening. The wedding was starting in 3 hours. 3 hours. And my son had just told me I wasn't welcome. I couldn't stop crying. I took off the dress, took off the shoes, took off everything and just sat there in my robe on the couch, staring at nothing. Paolo tried to comfort me, but he was devastated too. He kept pacing around the living room, all worked up, grabbing his phone, trying to call again. "This isn't right, Regina. Something's really wrong here," he kept saying. And I knew there was, but what could I do? Drive over there and bang on the ranch door, make a scene, beg my son to let me into his own wedding. The humiliation was already complete. I wasn't going to make it worse. The hours that followed were the worst of my life. I kept imagining the wedding happening without me. Could picture Andre in my head walking in, all smiles, greeting the guests, Camila looking gorgeous as a bride, her parents in the front row, and me. I was at home in my robe with puffy eyes from crying so much. Paolo tried to get me to eat something, but I couldn't. There was this lump in my throat that just wouldn't go away. Every time I looked at my phone, I was hoping to see a message from him apologizing, saying it had been a misunderstanding, begging me to come. But nothing. Total silence. Around 7 at night, when the wedding must have been over already, I saw that Andre had posted a photo on Instagram, him and Camila, all smiles, her holding the bouquet. I zoomed in on the photo, trying to see who was in the background. I recognized some distant cousins, his college buddies, Camila's parents right up front, grinning away. I kept scrolling through the other photos people had tagged him in. There were tons of people there. It wasn't an intimate wedding at all. There were at least 80, 100 guests. I started counting the people in the photos. There were even people I didn't know, people who definitely weren't closer to Andre than I was. And that's when it really hit me. You know, this wasn't about keeping it intimate. This was about excluding me. Just me. I showed Paolo the photos and he got even more pissed off than I was. This is bullshit, Regina. Pure bullshit. We're gonna have to talk to him, demand an explanation. But I didn't have the strength to demand anything anymore. I just wanted to understand. Wanted to know what I'd done that was so wrong to deserve that. I tossed and turned all night long, going over every conversation, every moment, trying to figure out where I went wrong. Had I been too pushy? Had I said something that offended Camilla without realizing it? Was Andre mad at me about something and I didn't even know? Sunday morning, he finally responded. A short message. Mom, we need some space from each other. Camilla and I think it's better this way. That was it. No explanation, no apology, nothing. I read that message about 20 times. We need some space from each other. What the hell did that mean? I was his mother. His mother. I wasn't just some random friend he could simply cut out of his life. I carried that boy in my womb, was sick the entire pregnancy, had a rough delivery, nearly died from hemorrhaging. I stayed up all night when he was a baby, worked 2 jobs to pay for the private school he went to, gave up so much to give him a better life, and now he wanted space. I responded right away, shaking. Andre, I don't understand any of this. Please, let's talk. Come over here or I'll come there, but we need to talk. He took hours to respond. When he did, it was even worse. It's not the right time. Mom, Camilla's really upset and I need to respect her space. We'll talk when things calm down. Camilla's upset? Upset about what? With me. I never did anything to that girl. I was never the type to butt in, to show up unannounced, to meddle in their lives. I always respected the couple's space, always, and still, somehow, I was the problem. I spent the next few days trying to understand. I called one of Andre's cousins who'd been at the wedding. She seemed uncomfortable, said she thought it was weird I wasn't there but that she didn't know anything about it. I tried talking to one of Polo's aunts who'd also gone. Same thing. Nobody knew anything or nobody wanted to tell me. I started feeling paranoid. Did everyone know except me? Had they been talking trash about me behind my back? And I was the only sucker who wasn't in the loop. I wasn't sleeping right, wasn't eating right, couldn't do anything anymore. Just kept turning it all over in my head. 2 weeks after the wedding, a friend of mine, Sonia, called me. We knew each other from church. She was one of the few people I could still talk to about what was happening. She had this straightforward way of talking, no beating around the bush, and that's why what she told me hurt even more. Regina, I didn't want to tell you this, but I think you need to know. Camilla's been going around saying you're really controlling, that you don't accept her as a daughter-in-law, that you're always criticizing her behind her back. I froze. Controlling. Critical. Me. Sonia, I swear to God I never did any of that. I was always polite to her, always tried to be kind. Sonia sighed on the other end of the line. I know, Regina, I know you, but that's what she's spreading around, and Andres is defending her. I hung up the phone and just sat there, paralyzed. So that was it. Camilla had made up some story about me, had convinced Andre I was this awful person, and he'd believed her. My own son had believed lies about me without even giving me a chance to defend myself, without even asking me if it was true. He just cut me out of his life, out of his wedding, because his wife told him to. And the worst part, I had no clue what I could do to fix this. Didn't even know where to start. But one thing I knew for sure, I wasn't gonna let this slide. If Andre wouldn't give me answers, I was gonna go after them myself. And that's when I decided to do something I never imagined I'd do in my life. Here's the translation with contractions. Idioms, transition phrases, interjections, modifiers, and colloquialisms. I decided to go to their place. I know it sounds desperate, And maybe it was, but I needed to look my son in the eye and understand what was going on. You can't work things out over text. You can't understand what's going through someone's head through a phone screen. I needed to see his face, needed him to look at me and tell me to my face why he'd done this to me. Paolo thought it wasn't a good idea, said I should wait a little longer, but I couldn't take it anymore. It had been almost a month since the wedding, and André's silence just kept getting worse every day. I went on a Wednesday morning around 10:30. I knew André worked from home on Wednesdays, so I was sure he'd be there. I went up to their apartment with my heart pounding like crazy. I rang the doorbell. Waited. Nothing. Rang again. I heard footsteps on the other side and then Camilla's voice. "Who is it?" I answered. "It's me, Camilla, Regina. I need to talk to André." Silence. A long silence. The kind you can feel the weight of. Then she said, without opening the door. "He doesn't want to talk to you right now, Regina." I felt my blood boiling. "Camilla, please, open the door. I just want to talk. That's all. 5 minutes." She took her time, but she opened it, just stood there with her arms crossed, blocking the entrance. She was in sweats, hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup. She was looking at me with this hard expression I'd never seen before. "What do you want?" she asked, and her tone was cold, almost hostile. I tried to stay calm. "I want to talk to my son. I want to understand what happened, why you guys cut me out of the wedding, why André doesn't want to talk to me anymore." She let out this dry little laugh, the kind that has zero humor in it. "You really don't know?" I shook my head. "No, Camilla, I swear I don't know. Nobody's explained anything to me." She sighed, like she was tired of me. "Regina, you've always been invasive, always wanted to control André's life, always wanted him to do things your way. I tried to be patient, tried to let it slide, but it got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. I was shocked. Invasive, controlling, me." "Camilla, what are you talking about? I never did any of that. I always respected you guys, always let you live your own lives." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, really? What about that time you showed up here unannounced and started messing with my stuff in the kitchen? And when you kept giving your 2 cents about how we should decorate the bedroom? And when you'd call André every single day demanding attention?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That time in the kitchen, I'd only organized some plates that were stacked all wrong because I was helping her wash dishes. The decorating suggestions were because she'd asked me what I thought, and I called my son because I missed him, because I wanted to know how he was doing. None of that was invasion. None of that was control. I tried to explain myself, but she didn't want to hear it, just kept going, unleashing this anger I didn't know she'd been holding on to. "André's always been really attached to you, Regina, and that was getting in our way. I needed him to distance himself from you so he could grow up, so we could build our own family without interference." Interference, that word hurt more than any other. I wasn't interference. I was his mother. "I want to talk to him," I said, trying to get past her, but she wouldn't move. "He doesn't want to talk to you. He asked me to ask you to respect that." And then she closed the door, right in my face. I just stood there in the hallway, unable to move. I took the stairs because I couldn't stand waiting for the elevator. I needed to get out of there fast before I fell apart. I got to the car, sat in the driver's seat and cried. Cried so much I ended up with a headache, with chest pain, with pain everywhere. How had it gotten to this point? How had my son, who I'd raised with so much love, let a woman treat me that way, let her push me away from him? I went home destroyed. Paolo saw my face and didn't even need to ask, just hugged me. I told him everything, every word Camilla had said, and he was furious. Said he was going to go over there and talk to André, but I asked him not to. It wouldn't do any good. André had made his choice, and the choice wasn't me. In the days that followed, I tried to accept the situation, tried to convince myself that maybe it really was better to take a break, let things cool off. But then, a week after that awful conversation, I found out something that changed everything. Sonia called me again. This time, her voice was different, kinda hesitant. "Regina, I need to tell you something, but you gotta promise you're not gonna lose it." My heart started racing. "What is it, Sonia?" She took a deep breath. "I was talking to Julia, that girl who works in the same office as Andre, and she told me Camila's pregnant, 4 months along." 4 months. I did the math real quick in my head. 4 months ago was when they'd started pushing me away. It was when Andre had started acting weird with me. It all made sense now. Camila was pregnant and hadn't told me. They'd cut me out of the wedding because they didn't want me to know. Didn't want me to be part of that moment in their lives. And the worst part, my grandson, my first grandson, was on the way. And I'd been the last person to find out. I spent days processing that information. Pregnant. Camila was pregnant with my grandson, and nobody thought it was important to tell me. Me, who'd dreamed my whole life about being a grandmother, who'd saved Andrea's baby clothes for years, imagining the day he'd have kids, was being completely shut out. The pain I felt was different now. It wasn't just hurt or sadness. It was anger, an anger that burned from the inside. Because it's one thing to push me away from my son, but to push me away from my grandson that I wasn't going to take lying down. I tried one more time to talk to Andre. I sent him a direct message. "Son, I heard you guys are expecting a baby. Congrats. I just wanted you to know I'm here, that I want to be part of this baby's life, and that we need to work this out before it's too late." He read it. I saw that he read it, but he didn't respond. 2 days went by. 3, a week, nothing. It was like I didn't exist anymore. Like 32 years of history between us could just be erased with simple silence. Paolo was just as pissed off as I was. He'd tried talking to Andre too, had texted, called, but nothing. The boy had blocked us out completely. It was my sister-in-law, Leticia, Paolo's sister, who gave me the idea. We were having coffee at her place when she said, "Regina, have you thought about reaching out to Camila's parents? Maybe they don't know anything about this. Maybe they could help." I had thought about it, yeah, but I figured it'd be way too invasive. But Leticia insisted, "Look, if it were me, I'd want to know. If my daughter was doing this to her mother-in-law, I'd want to know. Because this isn't right." She was right. It couldn't hurt to try. I knew where Camila's parents lived. I'd been there a few times for wedding planning meetings. They were polite people, well off, lived in a gated community on the south side. I went over there on a Saturday morning. I buzzed the intercom and the maid answered. I said I was Regina, Camila's mother-in-law, and that I needed to talk to Mrs. Marcia. The maid said to wait. About 5 minutes later, the gate opened and Marcia appeared on the balcony, waving at me. She was an elegant woman, always well put together, hair blown out, nails done. She greeted me with a smile, but I could tell it was one of those polite smiles, you know, the kind that doesn't reach your eyes. "Regina, what a surprise. Come in, come in." I went in. The house was huge, full of mirrors and light-colored furniture, fresh flowers in every corner. She offered me coffee and I accepted, more to have time to organize what I was going to say. We sat on the balcony, overlooking this massive garden they had. She made small talk for a few minutes, asked how I was doing, how Paolo was. I answered on autopilot, waiting for the right opening to say what I'd come to say. Then she said, "So, Regina, how's it been? This whole thing about waiting for the grandbaby?" I froze. She knew. Of course she knew. And apparently, She thought I'd known from the beginning, too. I took a deep breath and decided to be straight with her. Marcia, I came here because I need to be honest with you. I only found out about Camilla's pregnancy 2 weeks ago. Through other people. Andre didn't tell me anything. Her smile vanished. She set down her coffee cup slowly, looking at me with this confused expression. What do you mean you just found out? They didn't tell you? I shook my head. No. And there's more. They cut me out of the wedding. I didn't go. I got a text that day, just a few hours before, saying I wasn't supposed to come. Since then, Andre S. barely talked to me. Camilla treated me really rudely when I went to try to talk, and now I find out I'm gonna be a grandmother and nobody thought it was important to let me know. Marcia went pale. She really didn't know any of this. Regina, I didn't know. Camilla told me you guys had decided not to come because of personal issues on your end, that you'd apologized but couldn't make it. So that was it. Camilla had lied to her own parents, had made up a story to justify my absence at the wedding, and they'd believed it. I felt this mix of relief and anger. Relief because at least now I had someone who could see my side. Anger because the lie was way bigger than I'd imagined. Marcia, I swear to you I never apologized. I never chose not to go. I was excluded, and now I'm being excluded from my grandson's life too. She looked visibly uncomfortable. She got up, paced around the balcony a bit, sat back down. Look, Regina, I'm gonna be honest with you. Camilla's always been very protective of her space. She had a difficult relationship with my mother, with her grandmother, and I think that left some scars. But I didn't know it had gotten to this point. She promised she'd talk to Camilla, promised she'd try to understand what was going on and get back to me. I left there with a thread of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things could start getting worked out. But deep down, I knew it wasn't going to be that simple. And I was right. Because 2 days later, I got a call from Andre, and what he said was worse than anything I'd heard up to that point. He was upset. I could tell from his voice. Started off already talking loud. Mom, what's this story about you going to Marcia's house? Have you no shame? Going around chasing after us, making a scene, making up lies. I couldn't believe it. Making up lies. Andre, I didn't make up anything. I just went there to talk, to try to understand what's going on, and I found out you guys lied to her about the wedding. He got even more upset. We didn't lie about anything. We just simplified things because it wasn't her business, and it's not your business either. His words hurt like a punch. What do you mean it's not my business? I'm your mother, Andre. This baby is my grandson. He took a deep breath and let it out. Camilla doesn't want you having contact with our son, and I agree with her. We've decided it's better this way. I went silent, speechless, breathless. It was like someone had ripped the ground out from under my feet again, only this time I fell way deeper. You're serious, I managed to whisper. Yeah, I am. We don't trust you, Mom. Camilla thinks you're gonna want to control everything, that you'll interfere with how we raise our son. And I'm not gonna let that happen. We need to protect our family. I didn't know whether to cry, to scream, to hang up. Andre, for the love of God, I never did anything to deserve this. I was always a good mother, always supported you in everything. He let out this bitter laugh. Mom, you were suffocating. You always suffocated me, and I'm not gonna let you do the same thing to my son. I hung up the phone, or he hung up. I don't know. All I know is I just sat there on the kitchen floor with my phone in my hand, feeling like I'd lost everything. My son, my grandson, my family. And the worst part, without even really knowing what I'd done to deserve all of that. After that phone call, I fell into a hole. I'm not exaggerating. That's literally what happened. I spent days without leaving the house, without showering properly, without eating. Paulo was worried, tried to cheer me up, but I couldn't snap out of it. How was I supposed to snap out of it? My son had just told me I wasn't going to be able to meet my grandson, that I was a danger to the child, that I was suffocating. That word kept echoing in my head, suffocating, suffocating, suffocating. I went over every moment of Andre's life, every decision I'd made as a mother, trying to figure out where I'd screwed up so badly. Sonia showed up at my place unannounced in the middle of a Thursday afternoon. She rang the doorbell until I answered, and when I opened the door, she looked me up and down and said, "Regina, you can't let yourself fall apart like this. This isn't your fault." She came in, made some tea, sat with me at the kitchen table and made me talk. I told her everything. The visit to Masha's house, Andre's phone call, the accusations, everything. She listened quietly but I could see the outrage growing on her face. When I finished, she slammed her hand on the table. "This is manipulation, Regina. That girl manipulated your son. She made up this whole story in her head about you and convinced him it was true, and now she's using the baby as a weapon." I wanted to believe that was all it was, that it was Camila, that Andre was just as much a victim as I was. But part of me knew it wasn't quite like that. Because as much as Camila had planted those ideas in his head, he'd chosen to believe her. He'd chosen to push me away. He'd chosen to hurt me like that, and that hurt more than anything else. Sonia stayed with me the rest of the afternoon. She helped me tidy up the house, convinced me to take a shower, made food. She's the one who suggested I look for professional help. "Regina, you need to talk to someone. You're carrying way too much weight on your own." She was right. I needed help. I started going to therapy. At first, I thought it was kinda weird, sitting there and dumping all my problems on someone I barely knew. But little by little, it started making sense. The therapist, Dr. Camila, same name, ironic twist of fate, helped me understand some things. She said that sometimes we do the best we can as mothers, but our kids can still grow up with hurts, with distorted perceptions, with needs we couldn't meet. It didn't mean I was a bad mother. It meant I was human, and that Andre was too. But that didn't erase the pain, didn't justify what he'd done to me. 2 months went by. Andre didn't reach out once. I tried a few times to send him messages, simple stuff like "thinking about you" or "hope everything's going well with the baby," but he never responded. I could see from his Instagram stories that his life was going on as normal. He'd post pictures with Camila, her belly growing, big smiles, happy captions about the baby coming. It was like I didn't exist, like I'd never existed, and that ate away at me from the inside. There was this one night I dreamed I was holding my grandson in my arms, and when I woke up and realized it was just a dream, I cried so hard Polo woke up scared. It was on a Sunday afternoon that everything changed again. I was at home, watching TV without really paying attention, when the phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was Marcia. Her voice sounded different, kinda shaky. Regina, I need to talk to you. Can you come to my place right now?" I felt my chest tighten. Did something happen? Is the baby okay? She hesitated. "The baby's fine, but I found out some things, and I think you need to know." I didn't ask anything else, just said I'd be there in half an hour. When I got there, Marcia was on the balcony again, but this time there was no polite smile. Her face was serious, tired. She invited me in and got straight to the point. "Yeah, Regina, after our conversation, I was bothered. I started paying more attention to the things Camila said, to the way she acted, and I started noticing a pattern." She pulled her phone out of her pocket and showed me some conversations. They were screenshots of messages between Camila and some of her friends. I read them, and with each line, my mouth got drier. Managed to get Andre to cut his mom off for good. One message said, "They're finally gonna have him all to myself," said another. "Mothers-in-law are all the same. They want to control everything. Better to keep your distance." One more. I looked up at Marcia's face, not believing it. "How did you get these?" she sighed. "Camilla left her phone here at the house last week. She went to take a shower and her phone was on the table. I know I shouldn't have looked, but something told me I needed to see, and I saw a lot, Regina, and I was disgusted." She told me she'd confronted Camilla, that she'd asked why she'd done this, why she'd lied, why she'd pushed Andre away from me. And Camilla had admitted everything, said she was jealous, that she didn't want to share Andre with anyone, that she thought I was going to mess up their marriage. Marcia had been furious. They'd had a huge fight, and now she was there, showing me the proof. And Regina, I'm telling you this because you have a right to know the truth, and because I think you should show this to Andre. I froze. Show Andre? Confront him with proof that his wife had manipulated him? Would he even believe it? Would he even care? Marcia saw my hesitation. Look, I know it's hard, but you're that baby's grandmother. You have a right to be part of his life. And Andre deserves to know what kind of person he married. She sent the screenshots to my phone. I thanked her and left with my head spinning. In the car, I looked at the messages again. Every word was like a stab, but it was also proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't done anything wrong, that this whole thing had been a setup. I got home and showed Paolo. He got so pissed off, he wanted to leave right then to go to Andre's place. I held him back. Paolo, we need to think this through. If we show up there accusing Camila, Andre is gonna defend her. We need to be strategic. We spent the entire night coming up with a plan, and the next day, I did the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I sent Andre a message. "Son, I have information you need to know about Camila. It's not gossip, it's not lies, it's proof. If you care even a little bit about the truth, you come to our place and we'll talk. If you don't come, I'll understand you've made your choice for good. And then I'm gonna move on with my life without you." It took him 3 days to respond. 3 days that I spent with my stomach in knots, sleeping badly, jumping every time my phone made any noise. When the response finally came, it was short. "Fine, I'll come over tomorrow at 3 p.m., but I don't want any drama. I don't want any drama, like I was the one who'd created all that drama." I took a deep breath. At least he'd agreed to come. It was a start. Paula wanted to stay home for the conversation, but I asked him to leave. I needed to do this alone. Needed it to be just me and my son with no one else interfering. The next day, I cleaned the whole house. Made that carrot cake Andre used to love when he was a kid. Made fresh coffee. I know it might seem silly, but it was my way of showing I still cared, that I was still his mother, even after everything. At 3 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. My heart started racing. I went to the door, opened it, and there he was. My son, thinner than the last time I'd seen him, with deep dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his face. He came in without hugging me, without even really looking me in the eye, went straight to the living room and sat on the couch with his arms crossed. "So, Mom, what's so important?" I sat in the armchair across from him. I grabbed my phone, opened the folder with the screenshots Marcia had sent me, and handed it to him without saying anything. He took the phone with this suspicious look, started reading. I watched his face change as he went from one message to another. First, confusion, then disbelief, then anger. He read everything in silence. When he finished, He tossed the phone on the couch and just stared at the floor. Didn't say anything for a good 2 minutes. I didn't speak either. Let him process it. Finally, he looked up at me. His eyes were red. "Where'd you get this?" His voice was hoarse, I explained. Told him about Marcia, about how she'd found out, about the fight they'd had. He ran his hand over his face, looking exhausted. But then he did something I didn't expect. He laughed, a dry, bitter laugh with no humor in it whatsoever. "Mom, you really think I'm gonna believe this? That Marcia would betray her own daughter like that?" I froze. "Andre, these messages are real. Marcia showed them to me in person." He got up from the couch, all worked up. "Either Marcia's lying to cause problems in her daughter's marriage, or you made all this up. Either way, I'm not falling for your manipulations anymore." I couldn't believe it. After everything, after the proof, he still thought I was the problem. I tried to argue, tried to show him other details, but he didn't want to hear it. He got up, headed for the door. I panicked. "Andre, wait, please." He stopped, but didn't turn around. And then I said something I'd never planned to say, something I'd kept to myself for 32 years. "You need to know the truth about everything." He turned around slowly with this annoyed expression. "What truth, Mom? Another one of your stories?" I took a deep breath, feeling my legs getting weak. "The truth about your father." The silence that settled in the room was heavy. He took 2 steps toward me. "What are you talking about?" I sat down again because I didn't trust my legs anymore. "Sit down, Andre, please." He hesitated, but sat. I gathered my courage. It was now or never. "Paulo isn't your biological father." I said it, just like that, and his world collapsed in that second. I saw it in his eyes. His mouth opened, closed, opened again, speechless. "What?" That was all he could say. I told him the whole story. Told him that when I was 30, Paulo and I were going through a really rough patch in our marriage. He worked too much. I felt lonely, abandoned. That's when I met Marcelo, a doctor at the hospital where I worked. We started talking. It became a friendship. And it turned into more than that. It was brief, only lasted a few months, but it was intense. When I found out I was pregnant, Marcelo had already left for São Paulo, had gotten a position at a better hospital. I tried to talk to him, but he made it clear he didn't want any involvement, that he had his career, that he couldn't take on a child. I was desperate. Paulo and I had been fighting so much back then that we barely touched each other, so he'd never believed the baby was his. But I told him the truth, told him about Marcelo, about the pregnancy, about everything. And you know what he did? He forgave me. He said he was gonna take you on as his son, that he was gonna love you like you were his own blood. And he kept his word, Andre. He was always an amazing father to you. Loved you more than a lot of biological fathers love their own kids. Andre was pale. His hands were shaking. "Why didn't you ever tell me this?" His voice was a whisper. "Because I was scared. Scared of losing you. Scared you'd hate me. Scared of destroying our family." He got up again, started pacing around the room, running his hands through his hair. "I don't believe this. You're making this up now to manipulate me." I got up, went to the bedroom, opened my dresser drawer and pulled out a yellowed envelope that had been stored there for decades. I came back to the living room and handed it to him. "Open it." He opened it with trembling hands. Inside were photos of Marcelo, a black man, tall, with glasses, big smile, and the resemblance was undeniable. It was like looking at Andre 20 years from now. Same facial structure, same eye shape, same crooked smile. There was also a letter Marcelo had written to me when I told him about the pregnancy, making it clear he wasn't going to take responsibility, and there was a DNA test. A test I'd done in secret when Andre was 5, just to be sure. 99.9% match with a sample I'd gotten from Marcelo through a mutual acquaintance. Andre read the letter, looked at the photos, looked at the test. His hands were shaking so much the papers almost fell. He sat down again, or rather, collapsed on the couch. "Oh my God," was all he said. I just stood there, not knowing what to do. "Andre, I know it's a lot to process. I know you must hate me right now, but I needed you to know, because you're accusing the wrong person. Paulo loved me when I didn't deserve to be loved, accepted me when I cheated on him, and loved you unconditionally your whole life, and you're throwing all that away because of a woman who lied to you from the start." He stayed quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was broken. "Where is he, Marcelo?" I sighed. "He died. Cancer. 5 years ago. I found out by chance. Saw the obituary in the paper. He never got married, never had other kids. At least, not that I know of." Andre ran his hands over his face. "So the dad who raised me isn't my blood father, and my blood father died without even knowing me." I moved closer, tried to touch him, but he pulled away. "I need to go. I need to think." He got up, gathered the papers, the photos, and headed for the door. "Andre, wait." He stopped. "I didn't tell you this to hurt you more. I told you because you need to understand that family isn't just blood. It's who stays. It's who chooses to stay. Paulo chose. I chose. Camila didn't really choose you. She chose the version of you she could control." He didn't respond, just opened the door and left. I collapsed on the floor right there, crying everything I'd been holding back during that conversation. When Paulo got home half an hour later, he found me still on the living room floor. "What happened?" he asked, desperate. I told him, was all I could manage to say. I told him everything. The days that followed were the worst of my life. Andre wasn't responding to messages. Paulo was devastated, thinking I destroyed their relationship. I felt like the worst person in the world. Until a week later, the doorbell rang in the middle of the night. 3 in the morning. Paulo and I woke up startled. When I opened the door, it was Andre, but he wasn't alone. He had a suitcase in his hand. "Can I stay here for a few days?" he asked, his voice tired. I broke up with Camila. "So, what did you think of my story? Tell me in the comments what you felt, if you do the same thing I did, and if you think Andre made the right decision. I want to know your opinion. Hit that like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories, and click on the video showing up on your screen right now because the next story is even more intense. See you there."